And we're back. It's having a snack along with a snack. It's Gerald Glassford. It's a Lakers snack pack, everyone. How you doing out there? Of course, it's Gerald Glassford. Coming right back at you here for the Lakers Fast Break. Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week. Twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, as well, Inside Sports, Fantasy Football. Guess what's coming up at 9 or thereabouts? Going to be having our Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Switching over to that. So hopefully you catch it. Or if you're on audio, go ahead and check out the channel itself. We have a separate channel devoted to Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Also, as well, of course, the Lakerholics crew, Lakerholics.com. I'm going to post in a not too distant future a 5 things from Jamie Sweet for our members. So go ahead and check out for that. Empire Jeff TV, Lakers in 5. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, a member 2 months in a row. Yo! Also as well, John McCallion channel. Of course, a legend who was on yesterday. Stone Hansen, who we had lunch with last week. Alfred Esmond, who I'm going to hopefully get on next week. All these great folks, please like and subscribe. But as Joe's crunching and munching and throwing the bag there and all that stuff, go ahead and make sure you like and subscribe. We are at 1,948 subscribers. So close to 1950. But you can make it happen by subscribing today. Hit that notification bell, ding ding, and make sure you get the latest notifications on when we go live with the latest Lakers Fast Break podcast. And if you want to become a member, get lots of cool stuff, including emojis, badges, big shout outs. Also, as well, you will get inside stuff first. Sometimes you get videos, sometimes you get articles, sometimes you get other good stuff as well. We do polls for our members. Go ahead and check it out today. $2.99 a month right there for you at the Lakers Fast Break podcast. The Lakers still in relaxation mode, waiting for Friday to come around when they play against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I wanted to go ahead and mention that for tomorrow, you're not going to be hearing much of us talking basketball as far as Joe and I, because we have our college football special tomorrow. But you'll still be hearing, that's right, college football special. Joe asked for it. He was asked to do it. We're going to go ahead and do it tomorrow night. Looking forward to doing it. I'm going to put it around 9 p.m. I think I'm going to go ahead
Sean should be there for that one too, because that's his cup of tea as well.
Okay, I'll make sure we schedule something for it, making sure it's 9. John Costa will be your basketball talk tomorrow at 7 p.m. Just wanted to give you a heads up.
John doesn't really watch football. So.
No, but he's doing his own Clutch Talk and Lakers Quarter thing, unless it gets canceled again. But he's doing his own Clutch Talk. John.
When did it get canceled?
He wanted to do one on Monday, wanted to do one on Wednesday, but the missus
canceled him.
Yes, but the missus canceled him because the missus said you can't be doing it on Monday, so he had to do a no-go on Monday. But to Wednesday, he should be all good to go ahead and talk basketball with you guys. But at 9 tomorrow, it'll be college football for that with us right here at the Lakers Fast Break. But again, the Lakers coming up on Friday against Minnesota. A lot of talk happens when they have several days off. A lot of this and a lot of that. The rumorville seems to start rising and rising when the days off happen. And of course, a lot of stuff that's out there, including some stuff that went down by Shams Charania stating that the Heat are now very interested in trading away Jimmy Butler, who has 2 years, I think this year and next year. I think he has an option to go ahead and pick up next year. I think around 50 million, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. And then also as well, some more rumors, of course, on LeBron saying that, maybe he should ask for a trade to go to Golden State. And then other sources, mind you, I gotta love these sources who never out themselves, but they're sources supposedly saying that if LeBron were to ask out, that a trade for him and Bronny would have to be included in the deal as well. And I'm like, that would just be too good. All I'll say is if LeBron goes, sad to see him go, but thank him for a championship. But if Bronny goes with it, all right. Well, there you go. But we ask out there, everybody's throwing out their trades, their trade scenarios, who do they want to get, and all that. So we'll go over some of those prospects that are out there and yet decide whether or not it might help the team a little, because there is no, let's put it this way, guys, with what the assets we have now and the assets we have left, draft wise and personnel wise, unless you're trading AD, there is no major trade that we could do to boost the team up from space 8 or 9 in the Western Conference all the way up to 1 or 2. So whatever trade that we get would incrementally, hopefully in theory, help us out. So with that in mind, Joe and I have thought about maybe some of the things and rumors that have gone on. But the thing is, Will, when it comes right down to it, the Lakers, again, in a Western Conference that seems to be very competitive between spots 5 and spots 12, maybe one change will make the difference. But we'll see. But when you have a GM like Rob Pelinka, who has literally and financially backed the Lakers into a corner, $30,000 away from the second tax apron, and did nothing, or virtually nothing, this past summer, what could he actually do, or what will he do? We'll go ahead and talk about that on the show today for the next 53 minutes or so. But Joe, let me ask you this. It all starts off with LeBron himself. Of course, just ESPN can't stay away from talking about LeBron even on the days off. I know that the quiet on the Diddy allegations, I don't see his name on the allegations, so I guess he's not a part of it. So all those people who wanted to associate with him and saying he's going to be the guy that's going to be named, not happening there. But he has been named in rumors and speculation on if he should want out, because remember, he has a no trade clause. Only 1 or 2 players that actually has them. He has a no trade clause, and he can ask out if he wants to. Your thoughts on if LeBron will decide to vacate the premises along with Bronny, along with it?
No one's going to pay $50 million to a 40-year-old LeBron and his significant other. The the NBA is starting to turn into the NHL in terms of its marketing. They keep going back to the same well that's kind of played out. And they're never going to be the NHL. I know that, but well, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. But trading LeBron would be a good first step to get this thing turned around. But I don't think that would be enough, obviously, because I still think that their ownership and leadership on this franchise is still not good. They're not. Genie can't run a sports franchise in today's sports franchise culture. Just can't. It's not. You're not. If it was Major League Baseball, you could, because there isn't really a basement salary for these teams. These teams can decide to pay their players $40 million a year, $70 million a year. There's no guarantee on what they have to spend. In the NBA, I believe it's 90%. You have to pay, and that's why a lot of these contracts have become a detriment to any movement. That was kind of the beginning of it, so that the NBA could guarantee, or so that the Player Association can guarantee that they get a good piece of the pie. Yeah, I understand that, but you also put the screws to any kind of transaction down the road with all these aprons. I just don't feel that you pay someone like. Owners keep paying for guys like Jeremy Grant and Zach LaVine and all these guys who are never there. And right now, the NBA is going through a really, really bad epidemic of injuries, and a lot of it is psychological, a lot of it is physical, a lot of it is maybe a little bit of gameplay as well. But overall, you're not really getting anywhere near the investment back, and you're actually hamstringing all these teams. How you're hamstringing them is you're forcing teams to pay for mediocre talent. The NBA has the superstars, the stars, then it's really good players, and then everyone else. That's it. It's very rare, especially nowadays with the way the NBA is, where you can have specialists. You don't have the Vinny Johnsons anymore or the Tony Allens. The NBA has changed. The Tony Allen would not work in today's NBA. He might be like a Marcus Smart in terms of ceiling, but he would never be a lockdown player. He would never be a lockdown type. He wouldn't be allowed to be just a lockdown defender. Those days are gone. They don't. Those. He has to perform on the other side to some degree. Guys like Bruce Bowen, guys like Shane Battier, they made shots. They made timely 3-point shots. So that kind of gives them a little bit of value in today's NBA. But more often, specialists don't work anymore. Thugs that came off of the bench to protect the Michael Jordans and the Larry Birds and those guys, or I should say the Detroit Pistons, they protect Isaiah. I don't think anybody needed to protect Larry Bird. Those don't exist anymore. They wouldn't last in today's NBA. They would be a detriment to the team. So now you're forced to pay these mediocre players all this ridiculous money depending on timing. And as soon as you do that, now you're blaming these teams for going, oh, hey, why did you pay this much money for all these players? It's because you have to. Otherwise, you lose that money. D'Angelo Russell. Everyone was like, let him go. Let him go. Do this, do that. I'm like, we can't. The Lakers could not sign D'Angelo Russell. Otherwise, they lose that trading piece. And then, of course, last year, was it 2 years ago? I'm sorry, a year and a half ago. They put in one of the worst CBAs I've ever seen in my life in any sport. And you're stuck. You cannot improve. How are you going to improve? How? You can't.
It's going to be very interesting to see how that lays out. But, as I said the other day with Legend, there's a lot of buyers, but not a whole lot of sellers. And even the buyers are apprehensive to buy because of, like you said, Joe, the CBA and the restrictions they can do, whether or not they're a first or a second, or whether or not they're hard capped, or they could about to be hard capped. A lot of decisions have to be made in regards to it. And the bylines of the CBA make it even harder now to make trades, Joe.
So you essentially set up you set the teams up to basically how do I put this? If you make any mistakes or you have bad timing, it's not even your fault. You're bad at the wrong year of the draft. Like Golden State was. Imagine if Golden State had gotten a legitimate star at number 2. Their little run with Steph would have lasted much longer. But because they had the worst year to pick, which was 2020, they ended up not being able. Well, they won in 2022, but they would have had a longer run likely if they had gotten a superstar. And that's it. That's where this is going. And the Lakers were always able to kind of get through this Laker muck with David Stern trying to always limit the Lakers' advantage, which was such a frustrating thing because he did everything in his power to protect Michael Jordan and the Bulls during that run, but he always seemed to take away from the Lakers when the Lakers were running the league, with three-peating. What did they do after 2002? They implemented the zone. Why did they implement the zone? They implemented the zone because they needed to stop Shaq. And Shaq's career, in terms of his prime, lessened because of that. There was a time where you could not zone up anywhere near Shaq. That's why if you watch basketball in the late 80s, early 90s, at least for me, I can't can't really say anything before then because I don't remember. But I noticed how you had players that came from college. They usually would play 2 or 3 years, and they were almost better in the NBA than they were in college. And this is guys that were like centers especially, because now you couldn't just drop 2 or 3 guys in their zone, otherwise it was illegal defense. Now you had Shaq down low with his back to the basket, 4 or 5 feet away, and you can't commit until he gets the ball. If you committed in any way, you are called for an illegal defense. Watch Game 5 of the 2000 first round. Game 5, the one where they beat Sacramento after Sacramento surprised the Lakers, winning both games at home. They called 2 illegal defenses in that game. At the beginning of the game, as soon as that happened, Kings were done. It was a blowout after that. I've been trying to tell the NFL teams and the coaches about what's going on with Kansas City. There's a lot of holding going on in Kansas City, especially at the end of games. They gotta talk to these refs, and they gotta talk to Goodell. Hey, dude, you gotta stop letting this happen. There were 2 holding calls, blatant holding calls, in that game against the Chargers, and I saw at least 3 against Nick Bosa in important downs. I'm talking about third downs in the Super Bowl. You got to talk. And Phil Jackson, why we love Phil Jackson is he was the master of psychology. He set that little seed in after Game 4 and went ahead and it worked. Pay attention. You got to pay attention to what's going on, and you got to talk. Just like when you're playing defense, you got to talk. Hey, screen's coming. Hey, the ball's coming this way. Whatever. It's important that we speak about what is going on and what is not going to work and why things are the way they are. The reason why the Lakers are bad right now is because ownership decided to listen to players and their agents. Players and agents who are only thinking about themselves. And that's not good. And if you revert back to the Bulls, when Michael Jordan, because there's always been drama with teams and ownership, and that's not something new. That's always happened. But the difference between the 90s Bulls and the early Laker teams was they won. The guys that were there dealt with it and still paid attention to their jobs. And that's just kind of how that goes.
So I ask you, my friend, and once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It's a snack pack, everyone. Truly appreciate you joining us. LeBron would have to ask for a trade because he does have the no trade clause in his contract. One of only 2 players to do so, him and Bradley Beal. There are other players like Markkanen who signed specifically on a date where you cannot trade them for the rest of the season. That goes without saying. But again, the rumors are out there, according to Shams Charania. When Shams Charania puts something out there, that means that either an agent or a player personnel individual put something in his ear in regards to Miami's willingness to trade Jimmy Butler. Do you see Jimmy Butler moving? I think, like I mentioned, about $48 million, I believe, is his contract is roughly. Plus, he has an option for next year, which I'm assuming at his age he'll probably pick up. What do you think he can still do, Joe? And do you think he will be moved before the trade deadline?
Do I think he'll be moved? Who would need Jimmy to take him over the top a little bit? Didn't we say this last year about maybe Dallas being an option?
Yes, we did.
Would Dallas be that team? I think they could use him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think
that's kind of saying to Klay Thompson, sorry, you haven't worked out.
I'm sorry, Klay. Again, I can't. I love Klay. I love his dad. I love their whole family. I have one of my best friends, my old man Steve. He's the oldest friend I have. His wife taught Klay, and she adores him, and she told me everything about him. He's a cool dude. Like, Klay's awesome. Always will be awesome. But
my 91-year-old mom, that's the only player outside of Curry that she remembers. but she always remembers him. The guy that was traded to Denver, Gerald. No, you're talking about Klay Thompson. He's in Dallas, Mom. I have to remind her like almost every other day. That's what happens when you're 91. But what are you going to do? But yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I do think that. I think that I think Golden State got that one right, and we all knew they were right. And the Lakers almost got that deal done, except then Dallas paid more. I kind of understood where Dallas was going with this, but it was it was too much of a risk, and I think they probably shouldn't have done it.
So,
But
what do you think about Butler? Can he do? What can he do still? He's in his mid-30s. He's never been a big regular season guy, but he's built for the playoffs. You've seen
oh
how
no,
well
he
he
could.
ups the
Yeah,
games.
he would be there in prime time. If you had Jimmy Butler in the finals last year, you probably win this. You probably win. You probably win the title,
Mhm.
or at least take it to 7. At least take it to 7. That's the difference. But he's making a lot of money. I don't know if new ownership's going to want to. Pat Riley's going to want some talent to come back. He's going to want Gafford. He's probably going to want Lively. But I don't. It's not even enough money. They're going to have to package this. They're going to have to kind of gut their team a little bit, which I don't know. I don't know what their draft picks are going to fetch either.
If Golden State doesn't get its dream guy that has
It
been
would have
constantly
three
tied,
team try. There would have to be probably a 3 or 4 team trade here for this to work for them.
what
But
about Golden State?
as far as Jimmy Butler is concerned and the need that Dallas has, that's the only one I could think of that could take you from this to there. He's that guy. He doesn't have to be. He can be the third guy in that team, and he would flourish. I believe he has a little bit left in him to where he can make another run.
So, what about Golden State, who has already been mentioned in the rumor mill as far as a possibility? For the Lakers, it would be really hard to put enough pieces in place to make a trade. I mean, what D'Lo, Austin, JHS, that still only gets you to about 36. Probably still have to put in another player like Vando or Gabe, and you would have to probably send a number one along with it because of the fact that if you're choking on one of those big, really ugly contracts. I think for the Lakers, just the math wise, it doesn't work out unless you find some alternative, or unless Rui Hashimura becomes part of the package. But your thoughts on Golden State being a more realistic partner in a trade for Jimmy Butler?
We know Wiggins is going to be in that deal, so that contracts match, but they still need another $22 million.
Would
So
Kuminga go in that deal?
I think so, but he's only making 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna take a few things. Does Golden State have prime picks? Are they good?
They have, like, similar to the Lakers, they have a limited number of picks as well that they can work with. Yeah, because De'Anthony Melton. Remember, De'Anthony Melton is a trade exception at this point because he's out for the entire year, Joe.
I don't think unless the Miami Heat get a killer deal where they can improve, or they get draft picks and contracts that match the timeline of Jimmy Butler. I don't think they're going to trade him because Jimmy Butler has a player option next year.
Mm-hmm.
They can just wait till next year and let him get off the books instead of taking on bad contracts with guys that aren't going to necessarily probably play as well as you want them to.
They could do it if they trade Wiggins, Melton, Kuminga, and Podziemski.
Yeah, but is Kuminga, and now you're telling Golden State, take 2 of your established role players and take them out too. And Wiggins is a role player as well that's pretty effective at times. Now you're creating a lateral move at that point with getting rid of 3 role players and having one guy that's really good. But is it enough? I don't know. I don't think so.
And of course, like I said, the Lakers are probably not a possibility on that simply because they don't have enough effective salaries that I think works out unless you get in talking Gabe Vincent and or Jared
You'd have to give
Vanderbilt.
Miami. You'd have to give Miami draft
Yeah,
capital for them to do that.
yeah, and I don't think we really want to go ahead and do that, Joe. But
No. The Lakers are the only way the Lakers can get rid of LeBron is if he demands a trade and there's a team out there that wants to make money with LeBron for the next year and a half. That's it. I don't know. I don't know who else. And I don't think he's going to want to go to Charlotte or Washington. Washington, maybe. Would he want to go play in Washington? No. He's not going to get. Cleveland's not going to trade their budding team right now that's about to ascend for anything. LeBron. The reality is that the horrible case of LeBron's contract now says that we're going to have to wait for LeBron to decide if 2026 is his last season. And knowing who LeBron is and his ego and his personality, I would be in complete shock if he retired after the end of the year, which would be a huge favor for the Lakers. I would like to think he'd give him that favor for doing what they did with his son. If that were to happen, I would actually forgive the Bronny situation if that was the case. But I don't think I don't think he would turn down $50 million though. And
those are some strong words.
And more importantly, the adulation, because no one loves him like LeBron James. The most loved person in his life is himself. More so than any player I've ever seen in my life. That says a lot because I've seen a lot of basketball players.
Eric, that's actually a very good question. They do have the assets. They do have the trade capital. I think they do have enough salaries that will match. And remember, we were talking about Memphis on the NBA observations and talking about how I think they're missing one more piece. They need one more piece to go along with that big three that they have. If they can get Jimmy and not have to move any of those big three pieces in a deal, who knows? Might work. And it depends, Joe, because with Jimmy, it looks like after what happened after the fallout at the end of last season between Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler, I think it's pretty much made clear that they do not want to retain Jimmy Butler long term. It's pretty clear and evident they don't want to sign him to an extension, whether they feel it's age or whether he's been soured on the organization or the fact that they don't like the fact that he kind of takes sections of the regular season off, as we saw before. Remember the time that he was supposedly out with an illness, but then he's going ahead and taking photos with kids that are coming up from Brazil. I remember that last season. So maybe they're just tired of his act. Maybe just they don't value him long term at 34 or 35. Maybe they say it's just not worth the $40+ million investment. I think with Memphis, he could be a good fit. Do you think there might be a stop for him, or in Houston, who has a lot of assets and youth as well?
Why would you do that? Why would you cripple your about to become relevant team? Here's what I think Miami's going to do. Looking at the 2026 class, and this is something that you can also look at as a bright spot for Laker fans. I don't know what these players are going to do. I have a cynical, jaded feeling on this that they're going to take their super maxes. But let's have some fun with this. Let's just say that a couple of these guys that I'm going to mention don't do this, okay? For example, at the end of 2026, the two biggest free agents, or I should say three, are going to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander if they don't pick up their player option, Luka Doncic, and Trae Young.
Okay.
That could be an interesting summer if some of these guys don't take the supermax, because I'm pretty confident that Doncic is going to be an all NBA player. I'm pretty confident that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be an all NBA player, and the way Trae Young's playing right now looks like he might be. I don't know for sure, but I'd like to say the way he plays is very, very NBA, all NBA, at least third team type guy. And they still have to do it, I think, next year?
Yeah.
So I'm holding I'm holding hope that there's some rumblings that there's going to be a exodus from these player options and test the market. Does the new TV deal say, well, let's see what the market says, but I don't know. The Supermax is probably still going to be more, and we have to wait. We have to wait to see. And if these three all pick up their, I should say, if they all, if they don't pick up their player option and then they re-sign with their current teams, then 2026 becomes just like any other summer at this point. Because the only ones left after that are the Bradley Beals, the Jimmy Butlers, the Damian Lillards, the LeBron James, Fred Van Fleets, DeAndre Ayton, De'Aaron Fox, I think, is the only one that might be testing the market in 2026.
I can't say I blame him.
If something, and even if he's traded, it doesn't matter. And if Sacramento is smart, this is why we heard earlier that he's going to demand a trade. I just think everybody thought it was going to be, like the next day. But I would be in shock if they still have till next. They still have until next deadline too, not just this year.
Mm-hmm.
But De'Aaron Fox is going to get traded because you'd be stupid if you're Sacramento and not getting something for him.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Joe Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening.
That
Truly
would be something.
appreciate it.
See, the other thing too is Miami doesn't have a lot of picks either, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
So
correct.
I would have said, okay, well, maybe there might be something where they can send Jimmy to Sacramento, and then Miami can get better and get Fox and send over about 4 or 5 first-round picks. Sacramento would do that, but no one has picks. It's all become a disaster. Everyone's going to be stale. Everything is stale. It's boring. Everyone's going to stay with their own teams. Why? The whole excitement of the NBA was about player movement. I come off as a guy that doesn't like LeBron, but at the same time, I support him. I support him in a lot of things as well because I'm a Laker fan, and when everyone is infatuated with the player, I'm sitting back thinking about the Lakers. And then when I say we got to ship LeBron out and his son, or I don't want his son, or LeBron's a jackass, it's always tailored to the Lakers. You never heard me talk about, well, you haven't because you haven't known me that long, but ask my friends. I never talked about LeBron. I could give two shits about LeBron before he became a Laker. Oh, LeBron did a program where he told everybody he went to Miami. Who gives a shit? Why were people other than Cavs fans upset about that? Seriously. People are so infatuated with people and them doing things that shouldn't be done. What do you care? What difference does it make? It's basketball. It doesn't affect anything except the team that got hurt. Hey, we're losing LeBron James. Now we're pissed off. Yeah, sure. I get that. You could talk smack about LeBron. You're mad that he left you high and dry. But why did the whole world not like LeBron for that? Why don't you like Durant for going to Golden State? Oh, he took the easy way out. Well, maybe Oklahoma City should have done better in keeping him. But that was exciting. The ratings were high.
Yeah,
imagine that. Ratings high for a Cleveland Cavalier Golden State Warrior final. Who would have ever thought that 10 years ago?
Not I, that's for sure. But it certainly worked out that way. But I ask you this, my friend, when it comes to other available trade scenarios that are fan base or Laker Tom or somebody else out there has streamed up, what are some of the more sound, reasonable options that you said that you've heard that may be able to help this team a little bit. The Jonas Valanciunas, I was pretty high on Jonas Valanciunas before, but seeing him lately on that Washington team, he's been averaging decent numbers. But the other day, he gave up 56 points, not him personally, but a majority of them to Nikola Jokic. So he may not be at his age now. He's entering his mid 30s, may not be as capable on the defensive end as what people ask for. He can obviously rebound with the best of them still. Your thoughts on Jonas Valanciunas? If you could get him for cheap, would you be interested? But I have a feeling Washington will probably want a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll take anybody that has talent at this point. You can't mortgage the future, though.
And see, that's the thing. There are quite a bit of people out there in the fan base that want us to give up the future. Remember, I had this discussion, earlier, when talking about it with certain individuals like Laker Tom, for instance, and some of the Lakerholics. Some of them are wanting to go ahead and use those 2 picks because they don't care what happens in the future. They want the now. And the thing is, you got to look at it. Okay, if you make a trade, Joe, utilizing those 2 first-round draft picks, what are you hoping to accomplish? The players that you bring in or player that you bring in, what is the ultimate goal when you utilize those 2? The ultimate goal should be when you give up virtually your entire cachet of assets, you better be getting and building a team that can be capable of winning a championship. And I just don't see a scenario with just 2 first-round draft picks you can bundle together where the Lakers can do just that, Joe.
Mm-hmm. Plus, it's the mentality of the team.
Mm-hmm.
AD needs to be an MVP, but he's never been an MVP, and he never will be.
No, I
That's
don't
it.
think so.
There's nothing else. And maybe LeBron secretly is irritated by that when he's at home with his wife and talking about a team, whatever. Why isn't AD taken over? AD being an MVP like Jokic might have saved a lot of headache with this team. There could have been some things that could have materialized with that, but AD's not that guy. AD doesn't have the want to be the best.
So why is it still people, as far as the Laker Nation, still are holding out hope that the Lakers
There's nothing else to do. What else are you
can?
going to do? There's nothing else to do, especially if you're just a Laker fan. If you don't have something to fall back on, I have something to fall back on. I have the Dodgers. I have the Steelers. Steelers are playing above their heads, although this next 3 games is going to be probably the identifier on who they really are. And as far as the Dodgers are concerned, it's even worse for the Lakers right now in terms of the crown in the city of LA. The Dodgers are probably one more title next year away from taking the crown from the Lakers as the team of the city. That's been a while. It's been a while since that's happened. The Lakers have owned LA for a very long time. Even though the Dodgers won in 81, beat the Yankees then, and then beat the mighty Mets and the mighty A's in 88, Lakers owned LA when Magic came to LA, and they've owned LA since. They've had the crown since. But right now, with Shohei there, guys like Freddie Freeman, guys like Mookie Betts, and guys that are continuing to come, and the way the Guggenheims are marketing their team, it's eerily similar to the San Francisco 49ers of the 80s. Eerily similar. They made approximately $100 million off Shohei this year. And they didn't even flinch. They went right away and started upgrading their accommodations. Look at half of Dodger Stadium is dirt. So you tell me. And of course, you listen to Andrew Friedman. He goes, "We owe it to the fans. We owe it to the fans." How are you going to argue against that? He's dropping $183 million for pitchers when they already have likely someone coming from Japan again, a very good player in Roki Sasaki? Jeez,
Sasaki. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
Suzuki's. It's
Sorry,
Sasaki.
Sasaki. Yeah, I got confused because I was.
Because the Yanks just they just signed a left-hander.
Yeah, Max Fried, and they overpaid him, but they had
$200
to.
million
They had to. It's the highest paid left-hander
ever.
ever. Kershaw had that title for what, 10 years?
Yes.
But anyways,
Tells you all you need to know about
anyway,
left-handed pitching.
yeah, the Lakers are at the precipice of relinquishing the crown in LA. If the Dodgers win back-to-back World Series, which will be the first time the Dodgers have ever won back-to-back titles, with that, and if they do win next year, it will likely be a similar. That if I can say that they're probably going to get a couple more guys, it's going to piss the league off and all these crybabies off. They get those two guys that's been rumored to come. That will be huge. There's a few more, but especially the two that I've been reading about. You're looking at a Dodger team in 2025 that could mirror the 98 Yankees. The 98 Yankees won 114 games and ended up winning 11 games, obviously, in the playoffs. They won 125 games. They went 125. They went 125 and 50. There's never been anyone that's won more than 125 games.
Once again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is a snack pack. Truly appreciate you joining Joe Soro and I wanted to ask you this, my friend. Nick T on the Super Chat. Thank you so much for doing so. AD is durable because of not wanting to disappoint LeBron. He's playing a lot in this case. He's playing because he doesn't want to disappoint LeBron. When LeBron retires, AD is going to be missing 40 games per year and possibly no playoffs.
I don't know. I think you might want to. That AD is your number one asset at this point on this team, and if he is not going to play prime MVP type ball at this, and LeBron's not there, there might be a chance there where you can bring back some assets on your end so that you can start getting back to developing what you need done. The problem is I don't trust Rob Pelinka cannot develop anything, and Jeannie is not good at anything either. She's good at playing with her dogs. That's it. I don't see her doing anything that's productive. This is getting rid of LeBron is not going to solve the problem. Getting rid of the entire thing is what would work. Have this thing die out, however you want, trade AD, and then sell the team. Sell the team to someone who can own the arena and own the team outright. That's the only fix for this, folks. I just don't see. Short of LeBron playing through 2026 and somehow the Lakers are able to get a couple of amazing players for AD and then Luka comes here in the summer of 2026, I don't see how this is ever going to ever change.
And again, anybody who out there who is trying to be positive and think optimistically, I'm looking in the chat. Thameless says, that we still have two of the best players out there. Making the right moves will get us, and hopefully a change in chemistry and just a couple moves that will get us back into the mix at the upper end of the Western Conference or back to where he would make Thameless happy. I appreciate that enthusiasm. I appreciate that optimism, but I just don't trust Rob Pelinka in making a move that's going to swing the needle in our direction, Joe, that much. And he did it. He got lucky once, but as we've seen, his evaluation of players is not one of his strong suits. And that's what you need as a GM, not just evaluating your own players. It's evaluating talent in college, work with your scouts, and then also as well out there on other teams. I mean, the Memphis GM, he obviously eyed what was going on in other areas of the NBA world, including what was going on with the Lakers, and saw something in Jay Huff, saw something in Scottie Pippen Jr., saw something in Colin Castleton that, allowed him to go ahead and sign these guys. And in two of those three cases, they are major contributors to the team on a team that's now second place in the Western Conference. So that being said, Joe, I just don't see with Rob Pelinka the evaluation, the attention to detail in making a trade that's going to significantly move the needle for the Lakers in the right direction. He has one good trade deadline in 5 years.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't see any. I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel here.
I mean,
The
because
Lakers have to win. The Lakers have to win a championship. This is not. They can't lose in the finals. They can't lose in the playoffs. They can't. It's championship or bust. This is what this thing was constructed to do, regardless if it was done right or not. You have LeBron James and Anthony Davis making $110 million on your salaries, and yeah, those guys are gonna have those guys would have to pull pretty much everything, and that's not happening. It's just not happening. I'm sorry. It was 91 million. I'm sorry, 91 and change, almost 92 million between the two, which means they've spent almost $100 million on D'Angelo Russell, Rui, Reeves, Vanderbilt, Vincent. Imagine that. Imagine spending $100 million on a couple of good players and nothing after that. Pretty sad.
Gustavo said, if you're going to trade for a player, trade for a player who is hungry for success, not for his averages. Many have arrived in Los Angeles with good averages, and they've arrived and disappeared. As Joe, you've talked about it before, once they get, in some occasions, some players have not adapted well to the bright lights of LA. This is not uncommon in other areas because sometimes you get traded and it's just not the right situation, even though you think it is. It doesn't work out. But in the bright lights, the crypto.com arena, sometimes it gets magnified. And as we see, if you don't make the right move as a GM, you could be hurting even worse for their team. Got the ESPN little thing there. There you go.
I'm trying to think how to explain this. What was the post you just put up? I want to read it again.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can find it here, Gustavo. By the way, Gustavo, thank you for posting that. Really appreciate your thoughts on that. Appreciate everyone's thoughts out there. So there you go. If you're going to trade for a player who's hungry for success.
I got it. Yeah. Gustavo, sorry, man. The NBA player is kind of back to the 70s in terms of not caring again. If you read the history of the NBA was not as flourishing as it is. It wasn't flourishing in the 70s as it is now, or even in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. So at that time, there was a lot of just guys that are just trying to play enough to make their money and go home. There wasn't a lot of marketing tied to it, even though you had guys like Kareem and Bill Walton and Dr. J. Dr. J was still half of the 70s. He was in the ABA. You didn't really get a lot of those guys that kind of embraced the enthusiasm and the wanting to win versus making money. See, that's the difference. Well, there's not enough talk on why Larry and Magic transcended the NBA. It was very obvious that those guys weren't thinking about money solely. They thought about winning. And there's admiration there. There was admiration. Why did we love Kobe? Why did we love Jordan, Magic, Bird? Because it was out front in your face that these guys wanted to kill you to win. Magic was a smiling killer. Larry Bird was a frowning killer, and Michael Jordan was the bald killer. And then Kobe was kind of all in one. He did it with the fro. He did it without the fro. Those players are not here. As popular as LeBron is in the world, I see more people that don't care about him than do. It's just what it is. And most of the people who care about LeBron are, I don't know, kind of adolescent likes, even some of our adults. How can you not? How can you not expect that? LeBron is probably one of the more immature players I've ever seen. Not from his playing standpoint, just in his demeanor and how he carries himself.
Good point.
And that's just what it is. And I don't know how you can really become a leader. I don't know. I don't know how that becomes. To me, I'm used to authority, real authority, credible authority, not just authority from some jackass who's the boss. And I don't know who's going to take that step to bring back the demand to win. Maybe Wembanyama, but do we take French players seriously, European players seriously like that? You look at Jokic. Does he really? Do you really, when you see him, feel like he doesn't look you in the eye? I don't ever really like. I don't, and I'm not trying to go like negative here. I'm just saying there's things that KG used to do. There's things that Jokic does. A lot of those guys are great players, but those two specifically, I always see them in these interviews. They're never looking straight. They're never looking at people in the eye. Very rare. Someone looking you in the eye when you talk to them shows a lot of who they are. Jokic is not going to carry the NBA as good as he is, as great as he is. Luka Doncic has the personality, has the look, but I think he'd need to come to LA and really, really dedicate himself to fitness and really going all the way. I don't know if that's something he would do, but I would definitely like to give it a chance. Who else? Who in the NBA really wants to win? That it's obvious. I don't know.
Yeah, Brunson's not a big enough name to avoid, though. But I think his mannerisms and actions speak for themselves.
And I have family and friends who don't know who Jokic is. They don't know who Victor is really either. There's no Anthony Edwards. I said Anthony Edwards one time. They're like, you mean the guy from Top Gun? They don't know who he is either. The NBA has a massive hole right now in terms of their marketing, the player marketing. And they're trying to rely on gambling and China to save them a little bit, which is sad too, because basketball is our game. It's America's game. And at least baseball's bringing Japan to America, because there's nothing more American than baseball, right?
Yep.
They're bringing Japan to the major leagues. And look what's going on. All my friends and all my family members know who Shohei is. 100%. That's transcendent. That's what the NBA is missing right now. And of course, a lot of this stuff that's gone on the last few years, and the fact that LeBron's kind of the torchbearer. I think we're tired I'm tired of LeBron's leadership. Love his game. I could watch him play, get into the basket, making those logo threes when he's not doing it at the wrong time. Basketball-wise, LeBron is one of the greatest, without a doubt, and you have an argument of him being a top 3 player. 100%. He's not number 1, and he never will be. Number 2, you even have an argument there. But to me, I'm sorry, I've watched all 3 in their primes. I've never seen 2 guys master the game of basketball better than Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. That's it.
7. I said this on the show. I don't think you were watching at the time. We know how much you hate the Knicks. We understand that. We know how much you devalue Brunson. But when a guy commits to the kind of contract and the kind of pay cut over the money that he could have gotten, and the kind of sheer talent he has for a guy that was a second rounder, like Jokic, what he's done for the game and what he's doing now. Yeah, I'm sorry that you can't respect that, but think everyone in the audience there actually has a much better appreciation for what he has done for the Knicks and what he does for the Knicks as far as a player is concerned. So, no, I won't stop. Brunson is a good player. He's turned himself into a good player, and the fact that you can't,
Where are
you
you reading
really,
that?
oh, it's just 7. He just over the course of time, he's made
7.
several.
Are you going back to 5 now?
Yeah, he's going back to 5. He's been saying this for months. He just can't stand.
Why don't
I
you
understand
like
he can't.
Brunson? How do you dislike Brunson? They didn't
He
do anything to
hates
anybody.
hates.
Well, if he hates the Knicks, then that's fine. I mean, that's
Yeah, but then
yeah.
I just hear him say, "Oh," I've seen the comments before how he devalues Brunson as far as the talent is concerned, and just makes these like ridiculous comparisons, and it's just like rolls. My eyes roll while you're talking, and because I see it, it's just
I
come
want
on.
to know why he hates the Knicks.
I mean, we hate the Celtics. And everybody knows why we hate the Celtics because we're Lakers fans. But that doesn't mean we don't appreciate, as Joe says, we don't appreciate. We can appreciate the talent that's on that team and the way they've garnered. We have to respect the fact that they've built a championship level team.
7, where are you? I want to know
He's
why you
gone.
hate the Knicks. I'm curious.
What is it about the Knicks that makes you really, really so
What the
angry?
hell have the Knicks done to do anything to make you hate them? They haven't won shit since 1973.
Well, I didn't say he's number one Xbox. I just said he has at least the drive to win. The fact he wants to win, you can see it when he's out on the court, but he's also backed it up with the fact that the massive pay cut in his extension that he could have gotten over what he actually signed for, with the intention of the Knicks bringing in better players. They wouldn't have been able to make the Bridges deal, which actually doesn't look really good at this point, but he was doing it with the best of intentions.
That's just odd. I don't.
Yeah.
The Knicks. Who are the Knicks rival today?
That's a good question.
They don't have any.
They were so irrelevant for so long, Joe.
They had the Miami Heat. I think that was the hottest one, even more so than Indiana in a lot of ways. They had it, but let's say Indiana and Miami, and then to some degree the Bulls, but they never beat the Bulls, so I don't know if necessarily that's a rivalry. So the Knicks, unless you were a former Heat fan in the 90s or a Indiana Pacer fan, I don't understand the hate of the Knicks. I'm actually just curious on why.
Here we go. 7. I don't like how he got his data.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
That's a little bit different. That's the part you've never put in there.
Okay, well, yeah. I had a friend who didn't get a job with the Giants, and that was his favorite team. It's a few years ago. He doesn't follow them anymore.
So now that's understandable, 7.
Yeah.
You've
7, you're back.
Yourself.
You're back to 7.
Yes. Okay.
You're back to being $7,000.
Yes. And Xbox, they might be ugly to watch, but they've got one of the best offenses in the league right now. So that's all they can do is score because they can't play. They don't play defense at the level that they were supposed to with all those Villanova players. Mr. Big, great to have you here. I've seen you the past couple of days. Truly great to have you here. He said the Knicks fell off after their rivalry with Tim Hardaway, Alonzo Mourning. Yeah, they've been irrelevant for so long. That's why you saw the excitement in the playoffs at MSG, New York and Indiana going back at it, Joe. I mean, as an NBA fan, it was exciting to see the enthusiasm in MSG. I'm not a Knicks fan either, but just to see the excitement in MSG for so long.
You know how stupid the Knicks were in '93? They pissed off Michael Jordan. They should have had the Post, the New Yorker, I don't care what newspaper was there. They should have called everyone in New York and said, shut up about Michael going to Atlantic City. Shut up. We're up 2-0. Don't piss him off. What happens? This big fiasco that he went to Atlantic City between games. And what did that follow? 4 straight ass whoopings and a bounce out of the playoffs. You had
Now,
wins out the
now,
gate.
now, Thameless, I'm going to agree with you there. Their fans think they are at a level of arrogance compared to Celtics fans and Lakers fans, and even to an extent, Warriors fans who have won in recent years a lot. But the problem is they don't have the cachet and they don't have the results, as Joe would say, to back that up. So I agree with you, Thameless, that and I've actually listened to shows. I've actually had some great guests that host Nick shows or Nick related podcasts on this show and on this channel, and they could tell you pretty much the same thing, that it's an entitlement for them because it's New York, and all that stuff as far as MSG is concerned. So yeah, I get it. I totally get it on that sense, but they don't have they don't have the results to back that up, like the Lakers, like to the of course the Celtics, even the Bulls. I don't know at this point. I don't know if all that cachet from the '90s has worn out, but they probably still
Not in
have
the
it.
bank account. Reinsdorf is living it up. I've heard
Yeah.
that the Bulls make a lot of money every year
Yes.
from just being who they are right now.
Just from jersey sales of Michael Jordan alone. Yes.
Yeah. No, the Knicks remind me a lot of Michigan, and that might be an insult to my Michigan family, but Michigan people don't because there was a recent championship. It's not as there were recent championships, and people might not agree, but Michigan has won 2 national titles ever. Knicks have won 2 championships ever in their history. So for them to be this iconic team, their results haven't really necessarily said that. Matter of fact, the Pistons have more room to say that they might be that than the Knicks. They have 3. They won one in '89, they won one in '90, and they won one in '04. I know it's one extra title. A lot of times that doesn't mean anything. But the point is, the Knicks, if there's an arrogance there, I don't see it because I don't usually have a lot of conversations with Knicks fans where I'm at. There aren't really any. The New York part is probably what they hang on. Hey, this is the Mecca. Madison Square Garden is the Mecca. Well, to put it kindly, the reason why Madison Square Garden is the most popular arena in the world is for boxing. Before boxing turned into shit, it was known for the place where boxing was famous. Really, the Knicks were kind of eh. A lot of other events too, but boxing to me is what I remember of Madison Square Garden and wrestling. Jimmy Snuka, right?
Yep.
From the cage on Don Morocco.
Still is the vaunted mecca of professional wrestling. So
yeah, it's a prize fighting entertainment arena. The Knicks, sure, the Knicks play there, but there is an aura there. I was there for Kobe's last game against the Knicks in 2015, but I don't see anything special about the Knicks. I never did. I thought they had a chance when Patrick Ewing was there, but unfortunately Michael Jordan was in the way, and that kind of went the way of a lot of players. Karl Malone, John Stockton, Gary Payton at the time, Sean Kemp. A lot of these guys didn't end up winning championships. Charles Barkley because of Michael Jordan.
So with that, it is of course the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate you being a part of what we do here. Yeah, Kenneth Lofton Jr. I thought he was going to be better in the league, but maybe it's conditioning. Something has gone awry. Maybe it's just, the fact that for what he has his size, he's not really that tall. But I thought he had offensive ability, and again, just a shame Xbox with what happened with Kenny Lofton Jr. But thought he'd be a little bit more impactful in the league, but I guess not. But great to have you here, Lakers 60, 1973. It is, of course, the Lakers Fast Break. So we'll finish this up and delay Inside Sports Fantasy Football for just a couple moments. Truly appreciate you joining us. So there's no trade target for you think the Lakers should go after. I mean, changing up this team is needed, but changing just to change, I don't think is really going to help us out very
No,
much.
there's just not enough assets to make anything work. There would have to be a miracle. There would have to be a favor to Rob for it to happen, which I don't think that's going to happen. What are you going to do?
Who does favors anymore?
No one. No one. not a, not in maybe in baseball. Maybe in baseball still, but not. And that's only usually trade deadline stuff. Not
And that's because there's a minor league system that's like
right.
tiers in
You
place.
can also pick players later in rounds and still win out. Same like
The
the NFL.
virtual player to be named later.
Correct. It's just the NBA is so strapped for those top picks because a lot of these players are just not good enough to be superstars, and you're slowly seeing it more and more. Even the ones that do get picked high aren't really game changers immediately out of the gate. Wembanyama is probably the only guy right now since Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
Steph Curry before Wembanyama is the only guy that I can remember. I might be off a little bit. That created and brought titles. If you look at 2000 after 2009, who won the championship in those times? You had the Lakers, the last championship before Kobe had to go downhill. Then you had the Miami run with San Antonio as well, their last ditch effort. Dallas threw one in there as well, but those were all players from before 90s and 2000s. And then what? Then Steph Curry in 15. Yeah, so Steph Curry was the last draft pick of this kind of era that's still kind of relevant and won titles within the last decade.
And that's something we also have to consider as well. Let's say LeBron.
And he was the seventh pick.
Yeah.
He wasn't even the first pick. He was the seventh pick. Kawhi Leonard was 17th. Just hit 2019 was the stars aligned for Toronto at the right time. I mean, I guess you could use him too, but not really. I'm talking top like lottery pick type guys. There isn't anyone else, guys. It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult. And I don't think you'll ever see another second round pick do what Jokic is doing. That is just as much of a unicorn as Shohei Ohtani is. You will never see a second round NBA pick possibly win his fourth championship, fourth MVP. That'll never happen again. That was a bad, really. That shows you how bad GMing in the NBA is. It is bad.
Speaking of bad, like I said, you guys all in there voiced your opinions on LeBron, and I can't say I disagree with you on that. But again, he has all the control in this situation. He has a no trade clause, and even if he wanted to come and be traded, let's say Joe's the general manager of the Lakers and said, Joe, I want to go ahead and be traded. Me and Bronny out. You're still talking over $50 million you would have to find in trade back for, because the Lakers can't take $1. Well, they could take $30,000, but that's it. Well, actually, no, they can't because they're in their first tax apron. Never mind. They can't take $1 more than what they're sending out. So I don't know. I think the prospects of LeBron James being traded, even if he wanted to trade, the logistics on it, Joe, are just too hard to figure out.
If he wanted to get traded, that means he's already worked the deal out.
I hope so.
That he likes, which...
That he likes.
Who? Where? Where's he going? He's going to want to try to maybe win a championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who? Who out there needs a LeBron James to get him over the hump?
Good question.
Let's look at that for a second. Let's look at the standings. Cleveland, no. Boston, no. Knicks, no. Miami, no. Milwaukee? Would you want to go to Milwaukee? No. Oklahoma City? No. Memphis? He won't go. He doesn't want to go to Memphis.
Back to
Houston?
Cleveland?
No, they're not. No, Cleveland won't take him. Houston? I don't think he wants to go to Houston. Dallas? Maybe. But who? Golden State. Everybody's yapping about Golden State. I'd say that's probably the only place he'd probably go. So he can go play with his friend.
It's just what you get back is just going to be. I mean, they will have to take the Wiggins contract.
I
back.
would take anything at this point. I'd take 2 first-round picks if we could. Wiggins, bring them on. Go ahead, bring them on. Let them play out their contracts or use them for some kind of expiring thing down the road. Either way, there's got to be some progress in getting to the next level here because you're not going anywhere with this.
So with that, again, it is the Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro along with me, Joe Glassford. Yeah, sports baby. That's Kendrick Perkins bring up. That's what was some of the basis of what we've been talking about, sports baby. Earlier in the show, before he came on, we were definitely touching on that aspect of it. Yeah, we know it's from Kendrick Perkins, which I don't know. You could take that as far as you could see it, and if that's the case, I mean, Kendrick Perkins says a lot of stuff. Stephen A says a lot of stuff. So, I mean, it's yours if you want to choose to believe it. Again, I'll have to see it to believe it if that's the case, or see Shams Charania or somebody that has a little bit more accuracy, if that's the case. But it is, of course, Joe Soro along with me, Joe Glassford. Thanks again. Truly appreciate you joining us. Jalen says, is there a possible chance that the Lakers can surprise us and make it to the finals? What if that did happen?
No.
Jalen, for us, I mean, I picked the Lakers to be 9th and barely above 500. Joe picked the Lakers at 11th, barely above 500. I know Jamie, 10th, Stone, 11th. I think John Costa was low. Nobody on our entire, we had like 12 or 13 submissions, I believe is what we had. Howard Hill, Legend, Alfred Esmond, Stone Hansen, Laker Nick. We had a ton of submissions for the projections this year, and none of us, including Mr. Optimism himself, Laker Tom, who actually amazingly did pick the Lakers to win the championship. Even he picked the Lakers only to be 6th in the Western Conference. So I don't know how he gets that 6th to world champion, but okay. So outside of that, Jalen, I just don't think so.
For the new people out there, this is a statistic that I think is important. Since the NBA has had their current structure, the only difference was they decided to move the first round to 7 games instead of 5. But since this current structure of first round, semi-conference, finals, the four series gamut in 1990, since then, there's only been one team that's won a championship that wasn't a 4th seed or higher. And that was the Houston Rockets in 1995. That's it. So you've had 34 years of one team, and that team got escaped with the skin of their, to get to that spot. And Michael Jordan didn't have a full season that year. Who knows what would have happened? I'm not trying to downgrade the Houston Rockets winning that year. I'm just saying it's just not something that happens. You've had 8s beat 1s and 7 beat 2s and 6 beat 3s, but in the long run, it's very, very, very difficult to run 4 series without home court advantage. Home court in the NBA is huge. Biggest asset in sports, even better than the NFL. NFL used to be just as important, but not the last 20 years. Last 20 years, you start seeing a lot more wildcard teams make runs, have momentum. and a lot of one seeds, get bounced in the first playoffs that they're in.
So with that, it is Joe Soro along with me, Joe Glassford. Thanks again for watching us. Truly appreciate you joining us. That's the Lakers Fast Break for now. Coming up tomorrow, of course, it is John Costa, Clutch Talk on Lakers Corner. And then after that, at 9 p.m., that's at 7 p.m. with John Costa. At 9 p.m., it is Joe Soro with his college football special. Coach Joe Soro, right there. Da, 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 da. See the band. Da, 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 da. The cheerleaders doing like 10 flips out there. So yeah, tell you what, as I sink down here in my chair, I want to just say again, it is of course the Lakers Fast Break. Joe Soro tomorrow, and then of course John Costa tomorrow as well. But for now, we're getting into some football coming up right now on Inside Sports Fantasy Football. And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here for Lakers Fast Break. Pop Culture Cosmos, and it's Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Gosh, this chair is just like getting me all over the place. Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Of course, it's Gerald Glassford along with Joe Soro here. Chris Lardieri, he just came back from watching the Giants with his son in New York. He sent me a picture. It was a disaster, to say the least, Joe. Yeah, one picture says it all in regards to the Giant season. But it is, of course, Joe Soro, and I truly appreciate you joining us for Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Wanted to ask you this, Joe. I know the Steelers have been riding high on doing, and obviously the things that they can. But the one team, that we haven't talked about that's had a great deal of success, kind of pushed them off to the side. Before we get into the performances from this past weekend, which got me 180 points on my Yahoo fantasy team, woohoo, was the Detroit Lions. Your thoughts, my friend, on the Detroit Lions, Goff, Brown. They are in some ways always going under the radar, but I'll tell you what, as a fantasy football follower and also an NFL follower, you know what? I think any road to the Super Bowl eventually has to go through them.
Coach Campbell seems to be a person who just will not take any chances, and there's a lot to admire there. A lot to admire. That going for it on fourth was. Am I still here? Am I by myself? Gerald?
Yeah, you are. I was just fixing my chair. So,
Hello? Anyone? Anyone?
yeah, everything was fine, Joe. I just, I don't know what happened now. Just, you were fine. I was just going off here for a second because I wanted to change my fix.
Oh, I thought it was something technical. Sorry.
No. It was,
Sorry.
I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry. Good. So, anyways, Coach Campbell is very. He's a gunslinger, and there's a lot of admiration there. It looks like from his players, from the media, from the sports world. The only issue with the under the radar thing, and this actually might play into their advantage, is that no one's going to take the Lions seriously after their ineptness for the last 70 years. And that's just kind of how this plays out. They'll take the world will take them seriously should they run through the NFC and take out Kansas City in the Super Bowl, should Kansas City make it. Now, it's going to be very scary because that call in the Super Bowl or in a playoff game is different than in a regular season.
Why is it, do you think, that Detroit is going so far under the radar?
Like I said, it's not there's no Tom Brady, there's no Patrick Mahomes.
Mhm.
There isn't any star player there that you can kind of cling on. At the same time, it's Detroit. Detroit isn't likely going to be taken seriously until they actually make you think they're serious. And by them, even though they were close to winning the NFC Championship game last year, they have to go to the Super Bowl now. And that might be enough of an accomplishment to make them relevant. But then again, Jared Goff isn't mainstream. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Peyton Manning. Can he be after this? I don't think so. I think he's just that I don't think his personality is about that. He's a Matt Stafford clone in a lot of ways. He's a very good player, very good quarterback, but no matter how well he throws or how well he does, he's not that. He's not a mainstream type player. But it will work. It works to their advantage. It will work to their advantage because the less they hear about how good they are, the better they are. They're going to be prepared to continue to do what they're doing. So it's a good thing that they're under the radar.
Okay. So we'll see how long.
Sports baby, the Bears need to do a lot of what the Lakers need to do. The McCaskies need to sell the team.
Yeah.
Which is never going to happen. That's never going to happen. They need an offensive line. Let's stick to the basics here. I could go and say they're going to get Mason Graham in the draft. Forget about all that. How about get your damn quarterback protected? I'm not a fan of Caleb Williams. I'm not a big fan of his. However, he is talented. And you're not going to help matters by not giving him time to be talented.
And I know you said you're not a fan, but I'll say it like this. When you have a mobile quarterback, Joe, that's been sacked 45 times, that tells you just how bad the offensive line is. He's not a wooden quarterback, Joe. He's not an immobile quarterback. Everybody knows how much Caleb Williams can change a game by his running skill. But when you're sacked before you're even allowed to make a decision, that's part of the problem right there.
And this is a Chicago Bears staple. They're never organized. The last time they were organized was when Lovie Smith was the coach. And even then, you had Rex Grossman as your quarterback. If they had just had a decent quarterback, they probably would have beaten the Indianapolis Colts in 2007. Sorry, 2006 season, 2007 Super Bowl. But it's always been like this. They had this amazing year in '85, but that was at the time the culture of football, where you could get away with having just a defense and an okay offense and still winning championships. They had Jim McMahon as a quarterback at that time, right? And the Bears seem to never, ever, ever get the quarterback. We're talking 21. Bears have been in existence since 1921. And who is known? You're gonna laugh, but who is known as the number one Chicago quarterback since 1921, since their existence? It's still Sid Luckman. Sid Luckman was born in 1916. Made the Hall of Fame in 1965. That's still the number one Bears quarterback. If you look at their whole history, he's still the guy. A guy that played in the 40s. Caleb Williams, if he plays 10 years, he'd be the second greatest probably, unless he was a Super Bowl, then it would be number one. Who else? If there's a Bears fan out there, let me know. I'm pretty familiar with the Bears' history. Very familiar, actually. Bobby Douglas, maybe. Bobby Douglas, until Michael Vick came, was known as Frank Tarkenton was known as the scrambler. He wasn't really necessarily a rushing quarterback. But Bobby Douglas owned the most yardage by a quarterback at one point in a season. I think he might have led it in all-time quarterback rushing in general, but I have to look at that. But who? If there's a Bears fan out there, is it Bobby Douglas? Is it Sid Luckman? Is it Jim McMahon? I don't think so. Mike Tomczak? I didn't think I was going to come here and talk about the Bears' history of quarterbacks, but luckily, I grew up a football junkie. I wrote many papers for school about the NFL and know the NFL very well. So thank you for mentioning it, because I do get to go back into my head and remember some good information with that. Gives me more credibility in my discussion. So the Bears, you got to basically spend the first couple drafts on an offensive lineman. That's all I got to say about that. And as far as Detroit staying under the radar, I know if I'm Coach Campbell, I'm hoping that continues, because I think that's helping them.
So with that, it is, of course, Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Joe Soro along with me, Joe Glassford. Thanks so much again for watching, listening. Truly appreciate you joining us. Make sure if you have any questions, trades, I think the trade season's over. So if you need any starting lineup fixes or waiver wire pickups that you're kind of mulling over, you need some help, isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com, or put the comments below. We'll go ahead and get it to Joe and Chris, who do the best they can, and even Sean, if he's able to stop on by whenever he can as well, talking football. He'll hopefully be on for our special college football Wednesday night. So we'll talk about the college football playoffs. But Joe, some great performances. I sent this message to Chris over the course of the weekend. It's rare I get so giddy about, sorry, pardon the pun, Xbox. Rare I get so giddy about fantasy football, but when you win a league like I did last season. But Josh Allen, gosh dang, we were having a conversation, I think, was it 2 weeks ago or a week ago, on who we thought was the MVP. I sent a note to Chris that, as far back as far as they can get any of the NFL records, Josh Allen had the biggest day in fantasy football as far as, the points that you earn as a player in 50 years. They had to look back 50 years to find a game comparable to the one he just played. I think he ran for 2 touchdowns, passed for 3 more. He ran for 3 touchdowns. Sorry. Yes. I mean, my God, man, in the past 2 weeks, Josh Allen has been a man among men. Has he put himself in that head of the combination, as far as the top tier? Has he put himself ahead of the conversation, ahead of everybody else, ahead of the, Lamar Jacksons, Henrys, the 2, Hurst and Barkley in Philadelphia? Has he moved to the top of the pack?
The MVP race right now for the final 4 games is going to come down to which team will get the 1 seed. Will Philly get it, or will Buffalo get it? And if they play the way they've been playing consistently for the next 4 games, I think one or the other is going to get the 1 seed. And then at that point, that might be the breaker. That might be what chooses between Barkley or Josh Allen. However, if Barkley breaks 2105, I don't know. I know it's an extra game than when Eric Dickerson did it, but that's a pretty big record, especially considering how his season went this year, how he was left to go away from the New York Giants, seeing what they did, and then look what he's done for Philadelphia, whom were ready to fire Sirianni probably 2 hours into preseason.
Yeah.
So you got to look at it from that perspective. And I'm tired of always picking a quarterback.
Well, a player you might want to think about is Jamar Chase, because on my Yahoo team, guess who my second highest output player was? Jamar Chase. In fact, I had 3 players, Joe, get me 100 points. That's how
So
good a weekend I had.
so I had this is how good my fantasy football season was. I had the most points scored on me in the entire league. I didn't make the playoffs in either one of my leagues.
Man, that's rough.
I had the most points scored on me. And I had led last week the leader of our league by 2 points overall. And everybody I played, it seemed like every other week, was dropping 150, 160 on me. And I lost, and the ones that I lost were always 3, 4 points. It was the worst fantasy football season I've ever had. Ever. I had no chance of winning like this. So Jamar Chase, I guess you could say that he'll probably be AFC Player of the Year. Had a hell of a year. I have a lot of respect for Jamar Chase. Immense respect for how he carried himself dealing with that asswipe of an owner in Cincinnati. He bet on himself, and he had his best season, believe it or not. Best receiver in my book in the league. I know, I'm sorry, Justin Jefferson, I know you're good, but I picked Jamar Chase over anybody in the league right now.
Did you see that one where he caught it, did the spin around, and just took off for a touchdown?
He is an amazing receiver. Amazing.
Woo-hoo.
If him and Burrow were with any other team, I'd be a big fan. I'm a big fan of Joe Burrows as well, but I can't be too attached to those guys because and the AFC North is a brutal division.
By the way, Xbox, Joe.
Yes, I do, Mark.
Yes.
I do play golf. Yes,
I used to a lot more when I was in Cali than strangely enough, even though we have filled with golf courses here in Vegas. No, I haven't played as much, and I live, within a decent proximity to, a golf course here or there. Yeah, just something I haven't really touched on much since I moved to Vegas. But you never know. You tell me to come out for a game, I'll show you how bad my slice is. But be that as it may. Joe, I mean, the playoffs, like you said, they're around the corner for us in NFL Week 15. Some of them are starting this week, some are starting next week. And if that's the case, yeah, we're setting ourselves up for a good run because there's a lot of teams still needing to fight for position. Even though Kansas City is 12-1, Kansas City has only 1 loss on the season. They have not been the most convincing of winners. I still think there's a lot left to prove out there. What are your thoughts on the NFL season heading into NFL Week 15 before we get to our picks and, of course, a trip to the doghouse?
You want to know what's going to happen?
Well, just your thoughts on the as far as the NFL season, because a lot of it still predicated for fantasy football.
I think right now you have Detroit clearly the class of the NFC, and then of course Philadelphia might be able to sneak in there to overthrow the Lions. There's still a chance there, and then the AFC. I have to wait and see how my Steelers do. This next 3 games will tell us everything about who they are. We don't know 100% who they are yet. I think this next 3 games is going to be the identifier. I am feeling pretty comfortable in saying that if I'm looking at it from an objective standpoint, I feel pretty strong that Detroit, Philly, the Bills, and Chiefs are going to be likely in the championship games. There might be an upset here and there. Maybe somebody upsets the Chiefs finally. Somebody gets hurt and they can overthrow them. But I think those are the 4 best teams in the NFL, and I could see those 4 both in the championship games. Who wins that is up in the air. I'm going to say the Bills. However, that might be my heart saying that because I do not trust Coach McDermott. That timeout call at the 1 was very Mike Tomlin-esque. it was almost eerie. It was eerie. And don't those guys have like a relationship too, by the way? Didn't they play in college or something
I
like that,
believe
right?
so.
So I just thought it was the irony there is hilarious, or the coincidence, I should say, was hilarious because that would have been a Mike Tomlin move. Call a timeout knowing that you idiots, you morons. And then Tom Brady of all people validated it. Now I was yelling at the TV, not literally yelling. I was like, "Why'd you call a timeout?" Like I remember the second it happened, I go, "No, why? What do you call a timeout for?" And then Tom went on for about 3 minutes saying, "You can't." He was trying to say it a nice way, and you kind of felt it. And then all of a sudden, he finally kind of got out of that nice. He's like, you might have just cost your team the win. You have a 3% chance of getting an onside kick now. Why were you doing a quarterback sneak? Throw it 4 times so that you can preserve your timeouts and make them get a first down. That was your only chance. Just horrible decision. So in terms of the Bills, I really feel for the Bills fandom. I would like to see them win. I still like Patrick Mahomes. I wouldn't be sad either because I do like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. I wouldn't mind seeing a three-peat in the NFL. I think that'd be kind of cool. Philly, I think I did have a soft spot for Sirianni a little bit, getting beat up last year for all the stuff he had to deal with. I don't know what was going on in Philly. Something weird was going on in Philly. I never found out what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Something was weird. Like the team that almost won a Super Bowl the year before, they looked like the closest team I've ever seen in years. Like what happened in that year? And then of course Detroit, I have family ties to that, so it would be a win-win in either way. Those 4 teams making it to the championship game, I wouldn't have any. I'd feel bad for whoever loses. That's how I like those 4 teams, and that's ultimately what I think is going to be. And as far as this week, I mean, the Niners are dead, so I don't really know if the Rams-Niner game is going to be appealing on Thursday, which the NFL has been putting up some of the worst. The last Thursday game with the Packers and Lions, I think that's the only one that I gave a crap about this year, other than the Steeler games. It's just they've been scheduling horrible games in those things. I don't know what the deal is. And you know how I feel about these apps. I cannot do picture-in-picture, and I cannot fucking change the channel with these apps. Fuck you and your apps, NFL and everyone else. Chiefs, Browns, Dolphin, Texans, The snooze fest, Jets and Jaguars, Jesus Christ. Steelers, Eagles. I mean, that's probably it. Where you're like, okay, yeah. Who else? Ravens, Giants, Cowboys, Panthers. I think it's cool that the Colts and the Broncos are playing. My youngest goes to a middle school where they're the Colts, and my oldest goes to a high school that are the Broncos. Yeah, lame. Just not good not good matchups this week. I have to say it's just not very appealing, not very exciting games.
7 says the Steelers are boring to watch. I mean, Najee Harris and the other running back. I have Najee on one of my teams. It's not exactly the huge gripping running game. I mean, they get both they get like 30, 40, 50 yards. And then I guess Jaylen Warren between him. And I think that's, the just good enough part of it. And then Russell Wilson, he's not flashy, but man, he's getting the job done, Joe.
Who's really exciting in the NFL? Even the Chiefs have hit a wall on offense.
Well, I think that of course
Detroit.
the Bills Rams game, obviously people are pointing to that, but I mean that's
I'm talking about a
an
consistent
anomaly.
week in and week out
Yeah.
fun team to watch. I don't think there's been any fun teams other than maybe Detroit.
He said the Steelers win, but they're awful to watch. As long as the win's a win. Wins a
I
win.
can't argue against it. Yeah.
Xbox, I feel for you, man. He says he's a Jaguars fan. I feel for you.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do over there.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're gonna do over there. I really don't. I haven't figured out if Trevor Lawrence is a bust yet. I think you have maybe one more year to know for sure.
But the cons, you talk about maybe the ownership that should sell their team, like we do talk about all the time with Genie. I think the cons should probably consider that as well.
I think maybe they might want to relocate too, but I don't think the NFL is going to want them to because they want to keep sending people to die in the UK every other week.
That's true. I mean, how many of their games are actually at home and how many are actually in Europe? That's a good point.
Yeah.
So with that, Joe, it is week 15 in the NFL. I want to ask you this. What are some of the interesting games that appeal to you? Not necessarily have to be a underdog as of yet, because we haven't gone to the doghouse, but just overall, some of the interesting games this week for you, starting off on Thursday with the 49ers and the Rams.
The intriguing game is going to be the Steeler-Eagle game. Not because of the Steelers, but because that Steelers
battle for Pennsylvania.
Well, the Steelers are historically horrible in Philly. There's a very good chance that they're going to get destroyed there based off that history. If they end up winning that game, then it could mean something. That could mean something very, very big. Then again, you do have the Lions playing the Bills. That is probably the game of the week. Those two are one of those teams are going to lose, and one of those teams could end up costing them a 1 seed if they do lose. So if the Bills lose again, then they're likely going to be out of the first seed. Kansas City is probably going to end up getting it. And then if the Steelers continue to win, let's say, then there could be something where Bills have to go to Pittsburgh and play. That could be bad. But I think it's going to be hard for Pittsburgh to win. These next 3 games are in 11 days with the Philly, Ravens, and the Chiefs, because Roger Goodell and his greedy piece of shit existence decided to play football on a Wednesday on Christmas.
Of course.
Yeah. And not only did he do that, he did that when a team's playing on Saturday. And then the week before playing on a Sunday.
Of course.
So, asshole, piece of shit, motherfucker. Why didn't you put the Steelers on a Thursday night game before going for that Saturday game? So you gave them a shot. Seriously. You know why I'm pissed off, Gerald, with that motherfucker? I'll tell you why. This cocksucker always talks about player safety and all this bullshit. He doesn't give a fuck about the players, and he doesn't give a fuck about player safety. How do you have a football team this late in the season play 3 games in 11 days? And these opponents. They have to go to Philly and play Philly. They have to go to Baltimore and play Baltimore. And then you have to play the Kansas City Chiefs on Christmas. Another day where people aren't going to be playing. Another day where people aren't going to be with their families. This fucker cares about player safety and people. Yeah, okay. Whatever. Fuck you, Roger Goodell. Seriously. You're a piece of shit. You'll always be a piece of shit. You and all the owners that enable you.
So with that, it is, of course, Inside Sports, Fantasy Football. It's Joe Soro, a.k.a. Ox1947 at LakersBall.com. Also, as well, of course, Simblades with a Y.com, and his new game. You got to go ahead and wish list on Steam today, or reserve it on Epic's Game Store as well. Corrupt, Coreupt. Well, I don't think it's available yet on Epic, but I looked the other day and I couldn't find it.
They will be one day.
It will be one day.
They're playing this waiting game, and they're just not getting it. But Platonic and our team have talked, and they're very, very, very excited to possibly have a relationship. So, and they're very supportive of us coming out, even though we might not have the full marketing plan yet. So, yeah, things are looking good. That there's a possibility that it might be. We've had a couple Fridays here where it should have gone out, but we've had some publishers sneak in at the last minute and try to coerce us into maybe waiting a little bit, but we are getting to that point where we might not have to. We're not going to wait anymore. We're just going to go live and let things play out how they're supposed to. Unless they come in with some 7-8 figure deals, then we'll be more than happy to wait because that'll set us all up to get the right marketing and the big splash arrival.
So with that, it is, of course, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and we're going to go ahead and head out onto the lawn one more time. Gaze over the neighborhood and look on over to the dog.
Gaze over, huh?
Yes, gaze over the neighborhood. And another Australian basketball pun there. Maybe Xbox caught that. But we look over and the dog's sad. So you got to go ahead and give it attention. Make sure it's been eating. Make sure it's been got water. Make sure it's been taken care of. So you head on over to the woof woof woof. Head on over to the doghouse. Joe, what underdogs do you have in mind for this week?
I'm going to pick, and this is a long shot. I am going to pick the Browns beating the Chiefs.
That one I was very interesting because, how long can you play with your food, Joe? How long can you play with fire before you get burnt?
Yeah. I'm picking the Browns. I almost picked the Niners over the Rams. Then I realized Kyle Shanahan's the coach, and I don't trust Kyle Shanahan at the end of games.
Okay. I think I'm going to surprise you, Joe. I think I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers and the 5 points.
Ooh.
I know you said they don't play well there, but that's such an appealing number to me. If I was, still a betting man, like on the old days, and probably put 5 or 10 on that one, just because. Get some good action on that one.
That'll be good. I hope it works out for all of us.
Another one I would probably be teasing would be Saints getting 7.5 at home against the Commanders. I think that for a home game, I think that's going to be very interesting to see if that's going to continue to be the case. I understand it's a mash unit in New Orleans, but I still think they have enough talent to possibly at least not get beaten by more than a touchdown, but we'll see. The rest of the games, pretty much stay away for me. I mean, I don't see any others that unless you really think the Patriots can, that 6th spot against the Cardinals is very intriguing, or you're like the Bears enough on the road. But as we talked about with the Bears, it just looks like a disaster from one week to the next. Yeah, at this point in time, even the Raiders at home, Joe, where we've lambasted them time and time again and talking about how the fact that, there's more road fans in the arena, in the stadium, than home fans. So they're taking, I think, 4.5 as an underdog. So we'll see how it is. We'll see how it goes. But the biggest one of the week, do you think the Giants, let's talk about this before we leave. Chris Lardieri, our good friend, 14.5 they're getting against, I think, the Ravens.
I'm picking the Giants.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not picking a home dog at 14.5. I'm not picking the road team on a 14.5 with them being at home. Hell no. That's a horrible spread.
14.5 at home, guys. Although, again, I just told you, Chris flew out there for a disaster at home against New Orleans. So we'll see what happens. Wouldn't you know that if they win this weekend, I'm going to feel so bad for Chris because he flew himself and his son out there, father and son moment, to watch the game. And picture he sends back is their heads down. The Giant players are have heads down because it's so bad there right now. And if they win this weekend, I'm going to feel so bad for him because he spent all that money to go out there and they lose like that. And if they win the next weekend, that's really going to just like rub the salt in the wounds of a bad Giant season indeed. But Joe, it's been great having you here. Again, John Costa tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, U.S., for his Lakers Corner and Clutch Talk. I'm hoping he'll get that done. Keeping the fingers crossed for that. But Joe, you have something in mind for a college football special with Coach Joe Soro. Tell the kids out there at 9 p.m.
Yeah,
9
we're going to
p.m.
discuss the first annual 12-team college football analysis, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've already made my predictions, and it's going to be fun to discuss what could be one of the greatest tournaments ever created in sports. That is college football top 12. As long as they don't go to 16, 24, 48 like the NCAA basketball tournament, please. 12 is enough. I would have preferred 8, honestly, but we'll deal with 12. Please keep it at 12. It is enough. You don't want kids playing 20 games. Don't be greedy like Roger, piece of shit Goodell. Please. 12 tops and get rid of the bowls. I don't want to watch a bowl game. I don't give a shit about the bowl game. You have 12 teams that are in the playoffs. That's it. One champion, one tournament, one man. Boom.
Yeah, I need more teams, especially because of these bowls. I'll give you an example, Joe. Again, here, USC and UNLV, they both got announced for bowl games, one in the LA Bowl, one in the Las Vegas Bowl, except the fact is that UNLV, where they could earn more money and get more money, are being sent to Los Angeles instead of staying at home in Allegiant Stadium. That blows me away. I understand they have their contracted allegiances to certain, alliances or certain organizations like the Pac-12 or the Big 12, et cetera, et cetera. That, just disregard that when UNLV, because UNLV, their coach is leaving. They're not going to be this good again for years, most likely. But be that as it may, their USC is a 6-6 team. Should not be playing in a bowl. UNLV's playing a 6-6 team, I believe, in Texas A&M. They should not be in a bowl. I'm tired of these 6-6 teams, 7-6 teams, 6-5 teams, whatever. They're just bad. Again, I think you should go top 24 teams right there. They all have winning records, Joe. They all have good records. You're going to recognize some smaller schools. You get one more game. If you had to go to 24, you just add one more game on the schedule. In most of these cases, you put like a number 1 team gets a 24 team. You got a nice route for that number 1 team, but you've also got a big payday for both those schools. I just think that get rid of the bowls, like you said, make it 24 teams, and that's as far as I would go, Joe. I know you don't like it, but I agree with you on getting rid of the bowls.
Get rid of the bowls. 12 is enough.
Okay. All right. I respect that.
You don't get into 12, go study.
Yeah, one
I
thing.
don't want kids playing 20 games a year. I don't want it.
No, I didn't say that, but they'll play one more game. They would have one more game on the schedule.
No. Too many more. Too many. Sorry, too many. 8 was.
They're going to ask for. They're gonna want the more money, Joe. They're going to expand it.
I don't care what they want.
It's all about money, Joe. NCAA is all about money.
It's always all about money. Stick it up your ass.
So what have you got planned for tomorrow?
Tired of hearing that all the time. Tired of hearing quality being compromised by money. What was that?
What do you have planned for tomorrow again, though? At
tomorrow,
9 p.m.
At 9 p.m. Well, we're going to go over each team's season. We're going to go over the matchups, and then we're going to slowly pick the winners, what we think is our winners, and why, and the eventual winner as well.
Oh, wow. I just checked my ESPN team. I actually won there, too, over the weekend because of Jamar. I thought it was so far behind that I wasn't going to win, but thank you, Jamar. He got 45 in the ESPN league, and that's what did it for me right there. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Nice. And I had my first place in ESPN. I'll take it. It's not the money league, but hey, I'll take it indeed. But once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. If you have any questions for us, isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com. Good to hear you're feeling better, Jeremy. I really Really happy for you that you're feeling better. I hope that you get everything back. You're good back in good graces. Get back to health and get back to because I know having COVID sucks. I hope you get the taste buds back going and be able to eat whatever you want again and drink with no problems. Joe, any last thoughts though on football before we head on out?
Yes, playoffs can't come soon enough.
7, no, COVID is still a thing from time to time. So if he tested for it, he was sick, he was devastated for over a week, and we're glad to have him back around. So yes, Jeremy, great to have you back. Great to have everyone back here. It is, of course, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, but we'll be back tomorrow with Clutch Talk of Lakers Corner with John Costa, and of course, the Joe Soro, Coach Joe Soro college football special right here for you on the Lakers Fast Break podcast.
Good night, everyone. Mark, Jeremy, my Aussie crew, everyone else as well.